Hey everybody, great to be learning with you. Excited to continue our studies of Masechet Brachot as we begin to explore the second Mishnah in the first chapter. Just a quick flashback to what we started to talk about in the first Mishnah. We began to discuss the earliest and latest times for saying evening Shema. And as you recall, the night begins at Tzedek Kochavim. That's the time when the Kohanim go out to eat Truma. And that's the time when it is clearly night, and the time at which you may begin to say evening Shema. There is some disagreement in the Mishnah about when the latest time to say Shema is. There was a three-way machloket in the Mishnah about that. The opinion of Rabbi Eliezer maintained that you had until Tzedek Kochavim, until the end of the first Ashmura. The night, of course, is divided into three of these Ashmurot. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, you have until the end of the first Ashmura to say evening Shema. Chachamim disagreed and said you had a little bit longer. You had from Tzedek Kochavim until Chatzot, until midnight, which isn't always 12 a.m., but close to it. And that occurs within the second Ashmura of the evening. And finally, you had Rabban Gamliel, who gave you the entire night to say evening Shema, starting with Tzedek Kochavim and ending with Amud HaShachar at the very end of the third Ashmura. But this Mishnah, Mishnah Bet, discusses the following question. Me'ematai korin et Shema b'shacharit. When do we say Shema in the morning? And in order to understand the answer to this question, when is the earliest and the latest time for saying Shema, we need to learn a little bit of some new vocabulary, and the vocabulary is color-coded. Here's what I mean. The first word I want you to pay attention to appears on your screen. It's called techelet. Now, we talk about techelet every day in Shema. We say hakanaf petil techelet, a little strand, a little string of techelet that you put on the corner of your tzitzit. Techelet is a blue-colored strand of wool that was put on the tzitzit according to Torah law. Today, not everybody wears techelet on their tzitzit, but you can see some people who do it. There are some people in our Akiba community who do. And if you look at the corner of their talit where the tzitzit is located, you'll notice that one of the strands of the tzitzit has a bluish color, and that is called techelet. So on this question of when are you able to say Shema in the morning, the first opinion in the Mishnah, the opinion of Tanna Kama, says, Misha Yakir, when you can tell the difference, bein techelet lelavan, when you can distinguish between the color blue and the color white on your tzitzit, because at that point it will be light enough for you to know that it is actually morning and time for you to say morning Shema. So according to Tanna Kama, the earliest time is when you can tell the difference between the color techelet and the color lavan, between the color of blue and the color of white. There is a disagreement in the Mishnah, of course. There's always disagreements in the Mishnah. And the person who argues with Tanna Kama is Rabbi Eliezer. This is the same Rabbi Eliezer, by the way, who we read about in the first Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer says the earliest time to say morning Shema is not when you can tell the difference between blue and white, but when you can tell the difference bein techelet lekarti, when you can tell the difference between techelet and karti. Karti is a greenish color that does not appear on the tzitzit, but is a color that is close in appearance to the color of techelet. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, you need more light in order to be able to tell the difference between these two colors. So what we have here is a machloket about when is it light enough for it to be considered morning. According to Tanna Kama, it's light enough as soon as you can tell the difference between techelet and lavan, between blue and white. You don't need a lot of light for that because the colors are very different. You can really tell the difference between the color blue and the color white with just a little bit of light. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, you need even more light. You need it to be later in the morning, once the sun's rays appear even more broadly in the sky. Because in order to tell the difference between techelet and karti, as Rabbi Eliezer says, you really do need more light to tell the difference between these two colors that look very similar to one another. So even though they disagree, Tanna Kama and Rabbi Eliezer, on the earliest time, they both agree about the deadline, about the latest time. They say, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, ad neitz hachama. You have until Netzachama, to say morning Shema. Here's another vocabulary term that I'd like us to learn today. Netzachama is sunrise. Unlike Amud HaShachar, when it's still basically nighttime and the rays of light are starting to appear in the sky, Netzachama is an actual sunrise. It's what we would call dawn, the rising of the sun. The sun is in the horizon, and it begins to shed its light over the entire hemisphere. We can see in ways that we could not see before once the sun has fully risen in the horizon. So to summarize, we have a machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and Tanakama about the earliest time. Tanakama says you can start very early, as soon as you can tell the difference between Tchelet and Lavan. Rabbi Eliezer says you can only start to say morning Shema when it's a little bit later in the morning, when you can tell the difference between Tchelet and Karti. Both of them, however, agree that the deadline for saying morning Shema occurs at Netzachama at sunrise. But even here, as far as the latest time, we have another machloket. We have the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, who says you have until shalosh sha'ot, 3 hours after sunrise actually begins to say your morning Shema. He gives a much longer amount of time than both Tanakama and Rabbi Eliezer. So if we were to look at this together side by side, Tanakama and Rabbi Eliezer give you until Netzachama, but Rabbi Yehoshua gives longer, until 3 hours after Netzachama, for the person to say morning Shema. When you put all this together, looking at the Mishnah's question of Me'ematai korin et Shema b'shacharit, when can you say Shema in the morning, we have the following picture emerge. According to Tanakama and Rabbi Eliezer, we have a difference of opinion about the starting time. Tanakama says you can start, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, as soon as we reach the point where you can tell the difference between Tchelet and Lavan, and that extends all the way until Netzachama. Rabbi Eliezer says you only have from the time when you can tell the difference between Tchelet and Karti until Netzachama. Look at those two bars at the bottom of your screen. You can tell how Tanakama gives you more time than Rabbi Eliezer, even though both of them put the deadline at the same time, at Netzachama. According to Rabbi Yehoshua, however, you have more time to say morning Shema, because the deadline, even though it starts when you can tell the difference between Tchelet and Karti, just like the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, as you can see, his starting time is the same starting time as Rabbi Eliezer's starting time, but his ending time stretches all the way until 3 hours after sunrise, ad shalosh sha'ot. He gives you the most amount of time of anyone to say morning Shema. And so what we have here are two different arguments, one about the starting time and one about the ending time. Together in class, we'll sort through these and understand why they say what they say when we come back together learning in class. Looking forward to doing that with you as soon as we return.